The story begins with a boy waking up in complete darkness, confused and wondering where he is. At first, he can't see a thing, but shortly after, he notices a faint light slowly appearing in front of him. As the light grows brighter, he realizes it's coming from what seems to be the inside of an eggshell. A part of the shell is cracked, allowing him to peer outside and see that he is in a forest. This only raises more questions, especially when he realizes he cannot move his body at all. Before he can overthink it, a status window suddenly appears before him. Upon reading it, he is frozen in shock. It clearly states that he is a dragon egg, completely bewildered. His stats window expands, and a divine voice announces that this window displays all his current skills and numerical values for easy understanding. Still confused, he tries to demand an explanation from the divine voice about what on earth is happening. However, the voice calmly responds that it cannot explain anything yet because he is still level 1. Irritated, he frustrously shakes his body, causing him to fall from the tree where he was resting. He hits the ground and rolls uncontrollably down a hill until he reaches a river. There, he sees his reflection in the water, confirming the shocking truth. He really is a dragon egg. Noticing how lost he is, the divine voice finally gives him a proper explanation. It reveals that he is indeed a dragon egg, classified as an F-rank monster. If his shell were to break completely, he would die instantly, meaning he was already at great risk just by creating that small hole to see. The voice adds that while dragon eggs are at the bottom of the food chain and considered a delicacy among monsters, they have the potential to grow into fearsome dragons if they survive long enough, since he has no legs. His only means of transport is rolling. Sensing that staying in one place is too dangerous, he starts rolling at full speed to get away. Unfortunately, he ends up falling off a small cliff because he has been falling so much lately. The system announces that his fall resistance has leveled up from 1 to 2. Even so, the fall reduces his HP, reminding him to be more careful. Exhausted, he takes a nap and wakes up to find his HP fully restored, confirming that sleep is his primary way to recover in this dangerous new world. While rolling and contemplating his future, wondering if he'll become a massive dragon forced to fight forever, he spots a giant insect nearby. He hides behind a tree and uses his appraisal skill. The result shows the creature is an egg eater. The moment the insect detects him, it lunges with murderous intent. Realizing he can't outrun it forever just by rolling, he lures the worm to the edge of a cliff. As the creature leaps to swallow him whole, he dodges at the last second, using all his strength to slam into the monster and push it over the edge. The monster falls to its death, marking his first ever victory. The system immediately announces experience gained 12 points. New level, level 5, maxed stats. Evolution available, he can now choose between evolving into a baby dragon or a petty dragon. The system explains that the petty dragon is a dwarf dragon race, though small compared to other dragons. A fully grown one is larger than a bear and famous for its powerful fire breath. Regarding the baby dragon, the system explains that it is not well suited for combat due to its short claws and fangs. However, it possesses immense potential and can eventually evolve into many different dragon species. Naturally, baby dragons are considered a highly valuable delicacy by both monsters and adventurers, meaning they are constantly hunted wherever they appear. Initially, he leans toward the petty dragon because it is clearly the safer choice for survival. However, right after making his decision, the divine voice seems to embrace his consciousness, telling him not to settle and explaining that it has high expectations for him, that he should always aim for the top. Confused, he begins to suspect that the petty dragon might have a limited evolution path, or perhaps cannot evolve at all after a certain point, wanting to avoid any future regrets or the feeling that he limited himself out of fear. He changes his mind and opts for the baby dragon. The system accepts his choice, and his body instantly transforms into a small yellow dragon. Along with the evolution, he gains a host of new skills and a significant boost to all his stats. However, his HP and MP do not refill upon evolving, leaving him exhausted and starving. Driven by dragon instincts, he devours the egg-eater worm he defeated earlier, finds it surprisingly appetizing, and falls into a deep sleep. He wakes up the next morning feeling refreshed and catches his reflection in the river. finally accepting his reincarnation. Curiously, he has no memories of his past life, not even whether he was a boy or a girl. His thoughts are interrupted by a group of dark worms. Instead of fleeing, he tests his new skills, wiping them out in record time and unlocking even more abilities. Hungry again, but disgusted by the taste of the worms, he tries eating some nearby mushrooms. This turns out to be a terrible mistake, as they are poisonous. After suffering the consequences, he vows never to eat random mushrooms again. Venturing deeper into the forest for real prey, he encounters a gray wolf. Despite it being larger than him, he uses baby breath and dragon punch to defeat it. He roasts the meat with his dragon breath, finding it delicious, just like a barbecue dot after defeating another gray wolf. He reaches level 20 out of 25, realizing he only needs 5 more levels to evolve again. He starts getting used to this life of hunting, fighting, and eating. Yet, despite growing stronger, having only the divine voice to talk to feels lonely. He finds himself wishing for a friend. That wish is answered sooner than expected when he hears voices in the distance. Although he cannot understand the language, he feels a wave of relief, realizing they are human. He quickly hides behind a tree and observes a small group of adventurers approaching. He thinks about introducing himself, but then the reality hits him. He is a dragon. If he shows himself, will they see a friend or just a monster to be hunted? He thinks that because he is small, he looks harmless and even somewhat cute, so perhaps they won't see him as a threat. He even entertains the hopeful thought that they might keep him as a pet. With this in mind, he steps out from behind the tree and stands before them, doing his best to look adorable. Unfortunately, his plan fails miserably. The adventurers don't see him as cute at all. Instead, they see him as valuable prey and equality meat. Without hesitation, the group leader slashes him across the chest with a sword. Immediately after, the man uses magic that numbs his entire body, paralyzing him, as he lies there helpless, watching the adventurers slowly approach to deliver the killing blow. He realizes how naive he was to believe a dragon could ever befriend humans. After all his effort to evolve and survive, it feels like everything is about to end in a senseless death, just as the leader raises his weapon. A female adventurer suddenly steps forward and stops him. She argues, there's no need to kill such a small, innocent-looking dragon. Confused, our protagonist feels a warm sensation spreading through his body. She is using healing magic on him. Using appraisal, he discovers her name is Miriam. Despite being nearly out of mana, she chooses to heal him anyway. As she speaks to him, the system announces he has gained the Greek language skill, Human Tongue, which will allow him to understand them better as it levels up. However, this peaceful moment is shattered by loud screams from further ahead. Miriam recognizes her companion's voices and rushes to help. He desperately grabs her arm, trying to warn her that whatever is ahead is too dangerous. But she shakes him off and runs anyway, realizing he can't abandon the girl who saved his life. He musters his courage and chases after her. When he arrives, his fear intensifies. They are facing a rock dragon, a C-rank monster, with 197 HP and enormous amount of health to deplete. Miriam has already been injured, and when he calls out to her, the rock dragon shifts its gaze toward him. Paralyzed by terror, he ducks into the bushes, his mind racing as he wonders how to survive. Peeking out, he sees Miriam collapsed on the ground with only 6 HP left. His fear turns into absolute panic. Suddenly, the divine voice speaks, commanding him to get out of there immediately. It warns him that he has 0 chance of survival in a head-on fight. Deep down, he knows the voice is right. He is too weak and inexperienced. The logical choice is to run, yet he cannot bring himself to leave Miriam to die. Pushing past his logic, he forces his body to move, narrowly dodging an attack and counter-striking the rock dragon right in the face. He notices the other 2 adventurers. One is already dead, and the other is clinging to life with only 5 HP. He quickly forms a plan. He must lure the rock dragon away to create distance, then circle back to help the survivors if he can. He turns and sprints, pushing his body to the absolute limit to lead the beast away. Before he can get far, the rock dragon slams the ground, creating a powerful tremor that knocks him off balance. As he struggles to recover, the beast lunges at him, closing the distance in an instant. Just as the rock dragon leaps to attack, he reacts with a flame-covered punch directly to its face. He expects the blow to take at least half of the monster's HP, but to his horror, the rock dragon begins to heal itself. Fully restoring its health as if nothing had happened, he quickly realizes that while the dragon is busy regenerating, he has a window to grab Miriam and escape. However, he remembers the other adventurer is still alive nearby. Deep down, he knows he lacks the strength and time to save both. After a painful struggle with his conscience, he makes the difficult choice to leave the adventurer behind and focus on saving Miriam. He carries Miriam deep into the forest, but his keen sense of smell picks up a pack of gray wolves. Soon, they are surrounded. Miriam briefly opens her eyes and sees the small dragon fighting, desperately using his claws and even his teeth to kill the wolves before she faints again. After defeating the pack, he finally spots a human village in the distance. He cries out for help, hoping they will save her. As expected, the humans see only a dangerous monster. One stabs him with a spear, while others aim their weapons. He tries to explain he is saving Miriam, but they cannot understand a word. Realizing it's futile to argue, he gently places her on the ground and flees before they can kill him. From afar, he feels a sense of relief seeing them treat her wounds. Though he is struck by the sad realization, humans and dragons may never truly be friends. 2 days later, Miriam wakes up in the home of a girl named Mariel. Mariel explains that Miriam was gravely injured and has been unconscious for 2 days. When Miriam asks about her companions, Grans and Doss, the news is grim. Gran's body was found in the forest, and Doss is missing, presumed eaten by the rock dragon. Mariel harshly calls them idiots for thinking they could challenge a rock dragon. Miriam, overcome with survivor's guilt, begins to blame herself. Mariel tries to comfort her, saying it's better that she survived since the men were stubborn and reckless. Miriam then recalls why Doss was so obsessed. He was once a hero to the village children, but after fleeing from a rock dragon in the past, he was mocked by the villagers. Deeply insulted and determined to prove his bravery, Doss had sworn to defeat the next rock dragon he encountered at any cost. This obsession with being the strongest adventurer is what ultimately led to their tragedy. Doss had even lied, claiming Mariel gave him permission to hunt the rock dragon. Miriam did her best to warn him, but his pride blinded him. He even pressured and guilt-tripped Miriam into coming along. This is why Mariel calls him a fool. His ego ultimately cost him his life. Despite the tragedy, Mariel is shocked that Mariel survived without serious injuries. When Miriam mentions that someone must have carried her out of the forest, Mariel immediately dismisses it, explaining that no adventurer would risk their life against a rock dragon for a stranger. Mariel believes Miriam's memories are just muddled from the battle, but Miriam can't shake the image of the small dragon who saved her. The next morning, our protagonist wakes up fully healed. He realizes that a human body could never recover this fast overnight. His thoughts drift to Miriam, wondering if she's safe, and then back to his fight with the rock dragon. He remembers how powerless he felt. Fueled by this, he makes a solemn vow to become stronger at any cost so he can protect those in danger. He immediately begins hunting dark worms to grind for XP soon. The notification arrives. He has reached level 25 and is ready to evolve again. This time, instead of 2 options, he has 5. The divine voice intervenes to explain them. He quickly loses interest in the mini dragon path due to its slow growth and limited future. One option, however, catches his eye: the young calamity dragon. It is described as the first stage of an evil dragon that spreads disaster. While the name is terrifying, it comes with high intelligence and a specific skill: human transformation. The idea of being an evil dragon repels him at first, but the thought of being able to walk through human villages again is too tempting. He is torn, fully aware that choosing this path could ruin everything. However, his concern for Miriam and his deep desire to be human again push him to a decision. He chooses to evolve into the young calamity dragon. The process is intense and painful. When the transformation finally ends, he rushes to the water to see his reflection. To his dismay, he realizes he looks far more monstrous and ugly than he ever did before. The divine voice announces all the upgraded skills, and at first, he is extremely excited. Hearing about his newfound power fills him with hope. However, that excitement quickly vanishes when he sees the evil-type skills he has acquired. The list of dark and dangerous abilities makes him uneasy, worrying about what kind of creature he is becoming. To make matters worse, the main reason he chose this path of human transformation skills nowhere to be found on his status panel. Frustrated, he asks the divine voice if he needs to level up first to unlock it. Once again, the voice proves unhelpful, stating it cannot provide such explanations since he is only level 3. As the system explains his new skills in detail, he is horrified. Many sound cruel, poisonous, and designed solely to spread disease and destruction. He suffers a mental breakdown, deeply regretting his decision. He wishes he could go back to being an adorable small dragon instead of this terrifying plague creature. Meanwhile, Mariel and Miriam go to re-enchant the village's protection stones. Mariel takes the situation seriously, reasoning that if a monster entered because the stones were broken, their defenses are compromised. Miriam, still obsessed with the idea that the dragon saved her, asks Mariel to tell her more about monsters. Mariel explains the cycle of growth. Monsters hunt to level up, reach a limit, and then evolve into a higher rank, becoming more dangerous each time. When Miriam expresses shock at how humans know so much about them, Mariel reveals a secret. Occasionally, special individuals known as heroes or saints can hear a divine voice. This voice grants them knowledge of levels, skills, and origins. However, Mariel gives Miriam a stern warning. Monsters are incarnations of pure combat instinct. Even if one saved her before, its next evolution will likely make it more ferocious. She insists that humans and monsters are never meant to coexist peacefully. Ignorant of Mariel's warnings, our protagonist remains determined to level up and reach his goal of seeing Miriam again. While searching for weak monsters to grind XP, he is suddenly snagged by a giant spiderweb. A massive spider monster drops down behind him. He checks the spider's stats and realizes they are far too high for his current level. He opens with a fire breath attack, which deals visible damage, but the spider's HP bar barely moves. Realizing a head-on fight is suicide, he decides to switch tactics, using the paralysis attacks of the Calamity Dragon, in hopes of weakening or slowing the beast down. Even after his initial attacks, the spider still has more than half of its HP remaining. Realizing that brute force won't work, he decides to retreat. However, the spider is much faster than expected and stays right on his heels. He tries to fly, but his level is still too low to take off properly. Forcing him to continue rolling and maneuvering, he eventually reaches a cliff. Despite his unreliable flight skills, he takes a leap of faith, opening his wings at the last second to glide safely to the other side. He lets out a small cheer of relief, but his celebration is short-lived. The spider uses its webs to create a bridge across the abyss and continues the pursuit as he rolls away. He encounters other monsters, defeating them easily and grinding for experience. Suddenly, the divine voice announces that he has jumped from level 3 to level 8, feeling more confident. He prepares for a rematch. The spider releases a cloud of poisonous gas, and he jumps into the trees to avoid it. While there, he remembers he has poison resistance, meaning the gas is harmless to him. Realizing the spider doesn't know this, he feigns being affected and drops from the tree. As the spider approaches to devour its prey, he counterattacks midair with fire breath and slams it into the ground, defeating it. This victory boosts him from level 8 to level 14. Despite this, the human transformation skill still hasn't appeared. He finds a cool-looking cave and claims it as his home. While reflecting by the fire, he regrets choosing the Calamity Dragon path, fearing his terrifying appearance will make it impossible to ever coexist with humans. Back at the village, Miriam is shocked to hear a local elder claim he saw Doss walking into the forest. Although the old man is known as a drunkard and most dismiss his story, Miriam is desperate to believe it. She asks Mariel for permission to search the forest, but Mariel stops her, arguing that if Doss were alive, he would have returned already. To calm her down, Mariel promises to have the guild investigate. The next morning, the protagonist wakes up more determined than ever. He notices a strange slime nearby and tries to check its stats. The attempt causes a sharp pain in his eyes, but it levels up his appraisal skill to level 4. When he finally manages to see the slime's status, he is stunned. Its stats are incredibly high, far beyond what any normal slime should possess. Sensing the danger, he decides to leave it alone. Continuing his exploration, he finds what looks like an ordinary clay pot and thinks it would be useful for storing fruit. However, the pot bounces awaits a D-rank monster known as a pottertail, a hybrid of a pot and a turtle. He immediately tries to finish it off with a dragon punch. But even a direct hit barely leaves a scratch. Thinking he isn't trying hard enough, he pours everything into his next strikes, only for the pottertail to use its rest skill to fully regenerate its health. Frustrated, he tries to pry the shell open with brute force, but it's far too hard. Then he remembers. This is a land turtle. Knowing they are terrible swimmers, he simply tosses it into the river to end the matter. The system announces a gain of 36 XP, bringing him to level 15. However, before he can celebrate, he is confronted by a whole horde of pottertails. It turns out the first one had called for reinforcements. The turtles begin to stack themselves on top of each other in a coordinated attack. Unfazed, he leaps into the air and hurls one turtle into the rest, knocking them all down like bowling pins. This massive takedown grants him 594 XP, catapulting him from level 15 to level 30 in a single battle. Despite the victory, he's annoyed that the shells always break. Leaving him without a usable pot, he realizes he only needs 10 more levels for his next evolution, but still lacks human transformation. His thoughts are interrupted by an eerie aura and heavy footsteps. He hides and spots a giant bear in the distance. Using his skills, he identifies it as a clay bear Arceoso, a monster made of clay. He realizes that if he defeats it, he can finally use its body to mold the storage pot he needs. He attempts a surprise attack from a tree with a flame punch, but the bear reacts instantly, opening claws from its chest that nearly bite him in half. He switches to a hit-and-run tactic, whittling the bear down to half health. However, the bear uses a regeneration skill to fully recover. He decides to keep up the pressure until the bear runs out of mana. But the monster counters with an invisible sandstorm attack. Growing sharp clay spikes on its back to prevent close-range hits, the bear begins launching these spikes, like deadly projectiles. Seeing the clay break off upon impact, he gets an idea. Instead of just dodging, he catches one of the clay spikes, molds it into a solid sphere with his hands, and combines it with his meteor attack. The projectile hits the bear with devastating force. Ending the fight, the divine voice announces he is now level 33. With the battle over, he gathers the clay and returns to his cave to carefully craft the pot he's been wanting. While the clay pot is cooking and setting, he heads back into the forest to hunt for food, stumbling upon strange, wild plants he has never seen before. Meanwhile, Miriam ventures deeper into the forest. Despite Mariel's strict warnings, Miriam is determined. If there is even a slight chance that Dos is alive, she cannot stand by while he suffers. Though she doubts the drunkard's rumor, she feels she must see for herself. Encountering a dark worm, she successfully defends herself with a powerful fire attack, reminding herself to stay calm and focused to survive. While Miriam searches, our protagonist becomes fascinated by the various fruits and vegetables he finds. That evening, he returns to his cave, happy to find his pot ready. He uses it to cook a meal with the greens and meat he gathered, declaring it the best thing he's ever tasted. However, the pot is awkward to drink from and leaks, so he resolves to craft a better, more comfortable one the next day. The next morning, a carriage carrying Princess Melchior travels through a valley. She is joined by two adventurers who identify the nearby woods as the Forest the Guild. Wants them to investigate nearby, the protagonist returns from hunting wolves. He skins them and leaves the meat out to dry, but a group of monkeys keeps returning to steal his food. Pushed to his limit, he gets a villainous look on his face and decides to lace the next batch of meat with poison. He sets off to find poisonous flowers and eventually discovers a field filled with colorful, toxic plants. In the field, he encounters a new monster, a poison leopard princess. Using appraisal, he notes that its skills are entirely poison-based. The creature flees as soon as it sees him, leading him to think it's just a coward. However, it suddenly leaps from the shadows, bites him on the neck, and disappears again. At first, he is confused by the minor wound. This is no ordinary poison. He collapses, unable to move his shoulders or even stand. He realizes this was the creature's plan all along. His body feels heavy, His breathing grows ragged, and his mind slows down. He understands a grim truth. If he stays there doing nothing, he will die. This fear forces his mind to stay active. He realizes the only way to survive is to learn more about the creature that poisoned him. He demands an evaluation from the divine voice, which explains that the monster is a D-rank creature known for its cruel hunting style. It poisons its prey and flees, only returning to feast once the victim is completely helpless or dead. The voice continues to provide even more critical information. The divine voice explains that this creature, known as the Poison Princess, produces toxins within her body by consuming poisonous substances. However, she has a critical weakness. Her own bodily fluids are the only known antidote. He realizes that to survive, he must capture her alive. Thanks to his poison resistance, he isn't completely paralyzed yet. Using his last bit of strength, he activates his roll skill. To his surprise, the princess follows suit, rolling right behind him. She even launches a clay stake at him, revealing she shares some of his own abilities, fading in and out of consciousness. He remembers the cliff from his encounter with the giant spider. He decides to use the same trick. He speeds up, and at the last second, maneuvers to push the Lechert over the edge. But relief instantly turns to panic if she dies from the fall. His only cure dies with her. Without hesitation, he dives off the cliff after her. Mid-air, the poison hits him harder than ever, and his limbs begin to fail. Refusing to give up, he uses a blast of baby breath to create enough upward thrust for them both to land safely back on solid ground. Upon landing, his body finally gives out, and he collapses into unconsciousness with the Lechert resting on his chest, away from the forest. Miriam returns to the village after another long, fruitless day of searching for Doss. She hears Mariel calling her, and quickly steps out of the trees, pretending nothing is wrong. Mariel is relieved but suspicious, having looked for Miriam everywhere. When questioned, Miriam lies, claiming she had a slight cold and went for a walk to clear her head. Mariel doesn't fully buy the story and asks directly if she was in the forest. Miriam denies it. Without proof, Mariel lets it go and shares some news. A group of professional adventurers is already on their way to inspect the forest and search for does. She urges Miriam to leave the matter to the experts. Deep in the forest, our protagonist slowly wakes up. He sees the poison Lechert sitting in front of him and initially assumes she stayed to feast on his corpse. However, as he moves, he realizes the weight in his limbs and the burning pain are gone. She didn't stay to eat him, she gave him the antidote. By risking his life to save her from the fall, he won her over. Instead of seeing him as prey, she now sees him as an ally. He realizes that, just as he has a human soul, other monsters might be capable of more than just mindless killing. In that moment of calm, a bond begins to form between them, marking the start of a strange but genuine friendship. He brings her back to his cave and prepares a simple dinner. As they eat together, he feels a sense of comfort he hasn't felt in a long time. The crushing loneliness he had been carrying finally begins to fade. Eventually, they become true companions, learning to hunt as a team. They synchronize their movements, knowing exactly when to strike and when to retreat. While he gets used to her presence, he struggles with one thing: her diet. She refuses normal food, preferring the foul-smelling toxic plants from the deep forest. When he tries to burn a poisonous mushroom with his breath to stop her from eating it, she becomes furious. He quickly realizes that, for her, these plants aren't dangerous. They are her source of power. Their peace is interrupted by a powerful, rare monster, a bicephalus, a two-headed beast. Each head has a different color and expression, and it is clearly looking for a fight. Using his skills, he senses an intense aura and realizes the creature can manipulate gravity, though doubt creeps in. He and the poison Lechert refuse to back down. With a silent nod, they form a plan. He will draw the monster's attention head-on while she hides in the trees. Waiting for the perfect moment to strike, the bicephalus counters his first attack with immense power. Before he can recover, the blue head opens its mouth, and a glowing magic circle appears beneath his feet. Suddenly, gravity increases 100-fold, slamming his body into the ground. Just as he is about to be crushed, the Lechert launches a poison-coated clay dart. The hit interrupts the spell, releasing the gravitational pressure. Free again. He leaps into the air and unleashes his baby breath, but the monster instantly regenerates. However, he doesn't panic. He has realized the division of labor. The blue head handles magic, while the red head focuses on physical attacks. He charges again, intentionally letting the red head bite him. While it's occupied, he delivers a powerful punch to the blue head, dazing it. This creates the opening the lechert needs. She leaps down and sinks her venomous fangs into the blue head first. The bicephalus tries to regenerate, but the venom is too potent. Its HP continues to drop. Just as victory seems certain, the monster does the unthinkable to stop the venom from spreading. The red head bites down and rips off the blue head entirely. He is frozen in shock at the brutal sight, momentarily relieved that the magic threat is going to entail. He realizes that sacrificing a head is actually one of the bicephalus's terrifying special abilities. The severed blue head, though detached, remains alive. It begins moving on its own, relentlessly chasing the poison. He tries to rush to her aid, but the red head blocks his path, forcing a final showdown. With magic out of the equation, the battle becomes a test of pure strength. The red head attacks with feral ferocity, but he counters with precision. Remembering a fatal opening, he unleashes his crushing technique, ending the redhead's life once and for all. Silence falls and panic sets in. He desperately searches for his only friend. After what feels like an eternity, the lechert crawls out from behind a bush, gravely injured but alive. Just as he reaches for her, the blue head lunges from the shadows for one last strike. Acting on pure instinct, he grabs the head with his bare hands and crushes it, ending the threat forever. As he holds the princess in his arms, he realizes that being a dragon is fine, as long as he is by her side. In that moment of self-acceptance, the system announces his stat increases, and the final notification, human transformation unlocked, back in the village. Miriam and Mariel prepare for the arrival of the adventurers. To women, Melkua and Yuno arrive to investigate the missing person. Mariel explains the situation. They are looking for Doze, deeply worried that Miriam is risking her life searching for a ghost. Mariel tasks the duo with finding proof of Dos's death to finally give Miriam closure. The adventurers accept and head into the dark forest. Meanwhile, the protagonist finds an open field to test his new power. He is torn. He wants to live in a village, talk freely, and exist without fear. Yet he fears changing his form might affect his bond with the left. He reasons that if he can switch forms every few days, he can have the best of both worlds. He even wonders if the skill will restore his old body or create a new one, perhaps even a different gender, as he still doesn't remember his past. Taking a deep breath, he activates human transformation, imagining himself as a handsome man. The result is horrifying. Instead of a human, his body twists into a crooked, grotesque shape. He has not become a man. He has become a deformed, bipedal version of the plague dragon. The human skill of a calamity dragon was never meant to be beautiful. It is a cursed mockery of the human form. Frustrated and overwhelmed, he demands an explanation from the divine voice for the disastrous transformation. As usual, the voice is unhelpful, calmly stating that he needs to level up further to receive more details. His frustration turns to alarm when he checks his status window in this human form. His attack and defense are cut in half, and his MP drains at an accelerated rate. Realizing this form is unstable, inefficient, and leaves him vulnerable, he immediately reverts to his dragon body. Meanwhile, Melsha and Yuno continue their search. They defeat a spider monster deep in the forest, but find no trace of Das as night falls. They consider heading back, but stumble upon an unusual cave. At the entrance stand two small dragon statues. While Yuno assumes they are mere decorations from dragon worshippers, Melka senses magic emanating from them. These weren't simple carvings. They were imbued with energy. Stepping inside, they are shocked. The interior isn't a wild beast's laritz, clean, organized, and almost cozy. Seeing the reinforced walls and intentional layout, they suspect it might be a hideout for thieves or smugglers. Suddenly, the poison lechert appears. She doesn't attack. She simply growls a warning and retreats deeper into the cave. Melsha, recognizing the species as a lethal threat, advises that they leave immediately. This cave holds more than just a simple missing person case. Outside, our protagonist has already noticed the girls. Seeing Melsha and Yuno enters his home stirs a mix of guilt and hope. Despite the previous failure, he thinks that maybe this time he can form a bond. He activates his transformation skill again and approaches the entrance to greet them. The reaction is instantaneous. Melcia and Nuno don't see a friendly figure. They see a grotesque monster. His deformed appearance leaves no room for talk. Without hesitation, they strike him and sprint out of the cave at full speed. Once they are a safe distance away, Nuno asks for their next move. Melcia refuses to return to the village yet. They have no proof of Datta's fate and no solid explanation for the creature in the cave. Reporting now would only raise questions they can't answer. Nuno realizes what this means. Melcia is suggesting they call in the rest of their team. If something powerful is lurking in that cave, they need reinforcements to take it down. The next morning, the protagonist wakes up feeling refreshed, his energy restored. He decides to focus on a practical problem: the forest monkeys that keep stealing his dried meat. He asks the poison lecher to craft an odorless, tasteless toxin to lace the meat. She agrees, and soon the trap is set. The plan works. A group of monkeys sneaks into the cave, eats the meat, and begins to weaken. However, even poisoned, they are more resilient than he expected. As he and the lechard engage them, one monkey lets out a high-pitched shriek that echoes through the forest. The ground trembles as a massive gorilla-like creature emerges, the clan leader. He checks the creature's stats and realizes they are nearly identical to his own. However, the leader possesses a special skill that buffs its subordinates, multiplying their strength and speed. Suddenly, the manageable monkeys become an overwhelming force. Pushing him and the lechard back, the divine voice informs him that this is not a gorilla, but an evolved orangutan, an evolutionary form ranked deep. Noticing the leader has a telepathic communication skill, he grabs one of the monkeys as a hostage and attempts to negotiate. He explains they were only defending their territory and suggests a peaceful retreat. The orangutan's voice booms in his mind. Letting you go is impossible. You are too dangerous to the clan. You must be eliminated now. Realizing negotiation has failed, he proposes a sacred duel. Knowing the clan values pride and tradition, he bets on the leader's honor. The orangutan accepts, and the other monkeys immediately retreat. By their customs, no one can interfere in a sacred one-on-one fight. The duel begins. To the onlookers, it looks like he is constantly retreating, but he is actually baiting the orangutan into overextending. With every charge the leader makes, he dodges and lands precise counterattacks. Slowly, the tide turns in his favor as the orangutan slows down from the accumulated damage. However, just as victory seems near, the leader makes a drastic decision. The orangutan makes a desperate move, dumping all its available stat points into agility. Instantly, its speed becomes a blur, and our protagonist is forced to do the same to keep up. The duel transforms into a high-speed, brutal exchange of heavy blows. Every impact echoes through the clearing, as both fighters reach their absolute limits. Realizing he can't sustain this pace, he waits for the orangutan to lunge and activates a dragon counter, designed to redirect the opponent's force. He lands a devastating punch squarely on the leader's face. The orangutan wobbles, but manages one final heavy strike before collapsing. Because his blow landed first, he is declared the winner. He catches a glimpse of the lechard standing over him protectively before his eyes close, and the system announces he has reached level 39. Hours later, he wakes up back in his cave. The lechard looks satisfied, leading him to believe she carried him back. His celebration is cut short when he sees the monkey subordinates nearby. Expecting an ambush, he is surprised to see them cheering. They now recognize him as their new clan leader, checking his status. He confirms he has inherited the title, while the lechard is immediately hostile toward the monkeys. He calms her down, reasoning that they can use the monkeys for heavy labor and chores. However, as he interacts with his new staff, the princess becomes increasingly jealous. Though he is too distracted by the novelty of the situation to notice her mood, with the monkeys handling the work, he decides to spend his free time making storage jars. He notices one monkey watching with intense curiosity and decides to teach it, noting that their nimble fingers are perfect for pottery. He finds the poisoned lechard trying to mold a jar herself. He casually comments that she won't get very far with hands and legs like those. Embarrassed and offended, she runs away, leaving him utterly confused about what he said wrong. He realizes she's been acting strange lately, but can't quite put his finger on why. Meanwhile, at a local cafe, Melcha and Yuno wait for their reinforcements. Yuno is still visibly shaken by the overwhelming presence of the Calamity Dragon. Melcha remains calm, assuring her that their team will arrive once their current mission is over, and that they will deal with the monster in the cave once and for all. Back at the cave, the protagonist wakes up the next morning feeling heavy. He looks down to find the monkey sprawled all over him, fast asleep. After a futile attempt to shake them off, he gives up and decides to go back to sleep with his new rowdy family. A few minutes later, he wakes up to a troubling scene. One of the monkeys is lying on the ground, weak and begging for help. Using appraisal, he quickly discovers that the poison lechert has poisoned the monkey. Boiling with anger, he demands the antidote. She stubbornly refuses at first, but after he insists firmly, she finally yields. He administers the cure, and the monkey begins to recover. Once things stabilize, he calmly asks her why she did it. She hesitantly admits to feeling displaced ever since the monkeys joined them, claiming he no longer pays her the same attention. Realizing he has overlooked her feelings, he sincerely apologizes and proposes a hunting date for just the two of them the next day to make up for it. The next morning, they head out for their hunt. He is genuinely excited, but the princess is visibly unhappy. The reason is clear. He brought the monkeys along. While he sees no issue with it, she had expected a moment for just the two of them. To make matters worse, when two forest wolves attack, the monkeys' coordination is so impressive that they defeat the predators instantly, leaving the duo with nothing to do. The princess feels more sidelined than ever. Meanwhile, Miriam ventures deeper into the forest than she intended. Just as she considers turning back, she spots a figure in the distance that looks like Doss. Relieved, she runs toward him, only to be stopped by an overwhelming presence that freezes her with fear. Back on their way to the cave, the protagonist apologizes again to the princess, explaining his responsibilities as the new boss. He promises that the next hunt will truly be just the two of them, no monkeys allowed. Overjoyed, she jumps on him and starts licking him excitedly. Their moment is shattered by a loud scream echoing through the woods. He immediately recognizes it as Miriam's voice. Without hesitation, he rolls toward the sound. The princess tries to follow, but her roll skill level is too low. She loses control, crashes into a rock, and loses more than half of her HP. He assures her his feelings haven't changed, but insists he must save Miriam. He arrives just as Miriam is about to be devoured by 3 wolves, slamming one of them into the ground and standing protectively in front of her. The divine voice identifies them as Magiwolves rank D. They possess a third eye that allows them to transmit visual information to other pack members, enabling flawless coordination. At first glance, they seem like standard rank D monsters. However, upon closer inspection of their stats, he notices an unusual aura surrounding them, suggesting these are far stronger than typical wolves of their rank. At that moment, the wolves launch a coordinated attack, but he responds with a blast of baby dragon breath, reducing one of them to ashes. The other 2 attempt a pincer ambush, but he swiftly counters with heavy punches, ending the fight. He tries to approach Miriam calmly, and though she is initially terrified, she begins to connect the dots. Remembering the familiar dragon that saved her before, she realizes he is her protector. Trust is established, and they recognize each other as allies. As more Magiwolves surround them, he signals Miriam to get on his back. Now trusting him fully, she clings to him as he prepares to break through the circle and carry her to safety. Meanwhile, Marielle notices Miriam has been gone far too long. After searching the village and nearby fields with Gregory, she realizes Miriam must have gone back into the forest. Despite the danger, Marielle's love for the girl is too great to leave her alone. She firmly decides to enter the forest herself, leaving Gregory behind in case Miriam returns on her own. At the same time, the rest of the adventurer groups arrive to hear Yuno's report. The atmosphere turns tense as she describes the overwhelming pressure of the Calamity Dragon. Sensing the group's morale crumbling, Melcha steps forward. She reminds them that danger is part of the life they chose, stabilizing the group with her firm resolve. Deep in the woods, the protagonist sprints with Miriam on his back. He reaches a narrow valley and formulates a plan. The tight terrain will limit the wolves' movement. He sets Miriam down and quickly eliminates 3 more However, he gains no XP. His stats are already at their limit. As he continues through the forest, a wave of conflict hits him. He wants to return her to the village, but fears the humans might kill him. Suddenly, Miriam hugs him tightly, though he doesn't understand all her words. Her tone is unmistakable. She is thanking him. In that instant, the divine voice resonates. He has met the requirements for his next evolution. He refuses the further path of the Calamity Dragon, fearing he will become too terrifying for Miriam to ever touch again. He considers the dark human dragon demi-human, hoping for a true human form, but suspects it's too good to be true. The only other path that interests him is the little arc dragon, which grants flight and white magic. While he loves the idea of aerial mobility, the word little worries him, as it might limit his future growth. Unable to decide, he pauses at a waterfall so Miriam can drink, still weighing the practical benefits of flight versus speed. Out of curiosity, he asks Miriam which evolution he should choose. Naturally, she doesn't understand his words, and at first, her response sounds like gibberish to him. However, as she continues to speak, his language comprehension skill levels up. He clearly hears her introduce herself as Miria. Overjoyed by this breakthrough, they celebrate by splashing water and playing in the river. By the end of the day, he can mostly understand her, though he still cannot speak her language. Miria explains she entered the forest to find her comrade, Doze, as they talk. She fully realizes he is the same dragon who saved her before and embraces him tightly. In his heart, he silently apologizes to the Poison Princess. He has made his choice. He will follow the demi-human path to stay by Miria's side. Miria asks for his name, and he realizes he doesn't have one. He gestures for her to choose. After reflecting on his bravery and kindness, she declares his name shall be. The name resonates deep within him. The divine voice asks for confirmation, warning that once accepted, it cannot be changed. Since it was a gift from Miria, he accepts. From that moment on, he is officially Ilusia. The peaceful moment is shattered by heavy footsteps. Ilusia quickly puts Miria on his back and runs, but they are soon surrounded by a pack of wolves. To their horror, the pack is led by Doze, whose face is pale and twisted with a look of pure insanity. Ilusia checks his status and sees something terrifying. Das has no visible stats, as if he is no longer truly human. Miria tries to reach him, but a wolf attacks, and Ilusia intervenes. Miria strikes Das with a fireball, knocking him down. It's then that Ilusia notices Das is clutching a clump of earth as if it were a treasure. Suddenly, thunderous footsteps shake the ground. Miria gasps in shock as she realizes the dirt Das is holding is actually a rock dragon egg. Das's plan is madness. He intends to use the egg as bait to lure the rock dragon into the village, causing it to destroy everything in its path. Ilusia knows they must return the egg, but the wolves won't let them pass. Miria tells him to leave her behind, to hold off the wolves while he saves the village. Ilusia refuses. Leaving her would be a death sentence. Instead, he unleashes all his strength, slaughtering every wolf in the pack. Miria receives a small scratch during the chaos, but she urges him to hurry, go, save the village. As Ilusia races toward the town, the pieces of the tragedy are moving. Gregory hears a roar from the village. Marielle is still lost deep in the woods, searching for Miria. The adventurers are looking for a corpse. Unaware that the dead man is leading a monster to their doorstep, Doze continues his sprint toward the village with the enraged rock dragon trailing behind him in the shadows. A small blue slime watches the unfolding chaos in silence. As Ilusia carries Miria on his back, he feels a wave of relief, seeing her wounds aren't too deep. He assumes she would use her remaining mana to heal herself, but instead, Miriam gathers every last drop of her power to heal Ilusia's back. This selfless gesture makes him realize just how kind-hearted she truly is. Meanwhile, at the edge of the forest, Gregory faces a Maha wolf. Without hesitation, he pierces the beast with a single clean strike. As he pushes the carcass aside, he finds himself staring up at Ilusia's imposing figure. Recognizing him as a calamity dragon, Gregory prepares to throw his spear. But Miriam steps out from behind the dragon and stops him. She explains that Ilusia is nothing like the legends. Gregory looks closer and realizes this is the same young dragon that rescued Miriam before. He lowers his weapon and apologizes for his past hostility. Miriam reveals the dark truth. Das plans to use a rock dragon egg as bait to lure the monster directly into the village. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Gregory asks to ride on Iluce's back to reach the village faster. Upon their arrival, the villagers are shocked to see Das alive. But their confusion turns to terror when they see Miriam and Gregory riding a plague dragon, with the rock dragon's roars echoing in the distance. Gregory quickly organizes a plan. He and Iluce will fight the beast while Miriam handles the evacuation. Though Iluce's reasons are simple, he just wants Miriam out of harm's way. She reluctantly agrees, knowing her injury would only slow them down before heading into battle. Gregory tells Iluce that once this is over, he will introduce him to the village as a friend and a hero. This is all Iluce ever wanted, to live in peace with humans rather than being feared. Back in the village, Das has already begun his massacre, killing animals and even an inhabitant. When Iluce and Gregory arrive, the chaos peaks. Iluce manages to overpower Das, but chooses not to kill him, fearing that slaying a human would make him the monster everyone thinks he is. He settles for knocking him unconscious. However, Iluce notices something wrong with Das's stats. They match a Maha wolf's suddenly. Das wakes up, grabs a young boy named Jin, and a slime-like tentacle shoots from his mouth, propelling them to the top of a water tower. Das isn't human. In a cruel move, Das drops the egg and throws Jin from the tower. Iluce is forced to choose, save the boy or save the egg. He catches Jin, but the egg shatters on the ground. The rock dragon, seeing its broken offspring, enters a state of uncontrollable fury. Iluce blames himself. If he had killed Das earlier, this tragedy could have been avoided. After the rock dragon crushes the strange Das under its foot, Iluce tells Gregory to take Jin to safety. He will face the beast alone. The fight is one-sided. The rock dragon is stronger than anything Iluce has ever faced. Even when Gregory returns with a group of adventurers to help, they are quickly overwhelmed as Iluce nears defeat. The divine voice announces he has reached level 4 and advises him to flee. Iluce refuses. He needs to evolve to survive. But the system shows him grim odds. Arc Dragon, 4% chance of victory. Jormungandr, 98% chance of a draw. But the village would be destroyed. Rolling Dragon, less than 1% chance of victory, but 99% chance of escape. Frustrated and desperate, Iluce lets out a roar. Every path offered leads to a fate he refuses to accept, leaving him trapped in a choice with no right answer. Meanwhile, the adventurers still in the forest suddenly hear a loud noise coming from the direction of the village. The sound is loud enough to make them stop and listen intently. They quickly realize that something serious is happening back at the village, so they decide to rush back to see what is going on. At the same time, Miriam and Mariel are guiding the villagers as they evacuate to a safer area. While checking the group, Miriam notes that some villagers are still missing and haven't arrived yet. Just then, Jean finally appears, being carried on his mother's back. It is clear at a glance that he is gravely injured. The newly arrived villagers quickly explain the situation to Miriam, telling her that Gregory is still at the village cemetery, fighting the rock dragon on his own. Upon hearing this, Mariel immediately decides to return to the village to help him fight. She tells Miriam to stay behind and continue helping the wounded, believing Miriam's healing skills will be more useful there. However, Miriam refuses to stay back, explaining that she has helped everyone she could and is certain there will be more injured people in the village and the forest who need her. Mariel realizes Miriam is right and, after a moment's thought, allows her to come along. Meanwhile, Arusha is still facing a very difficult decision regarding his evolution path. He considers evolving into a little arc dragon, which would grant him recovery magic to heal his allies. However, as soon as he considers this, the voice of God speaks to him, informing him that if he chooses that path, his chances of defeating the rock dragon will drop below 4%, and the chances of saving his wounded allies will fall to less than 1%. Frustrated by these numbers, Arusha suddenly rolls forward and slams into the rock dragon's head with force. He then quickly jumps to Gregory's side to check on him. The situation is worse than expected. Gregory is trapped between two rock dragons and is bleeding profusely. Seeing this, our protagonist makes a choice. He decides to evolve into the little arc dragon to use recovery magic on Gregory. But before he can act, Gregory stops him. Gregory tells Irusia not to worry about him, reminding him that as a plague dragon, Irusia has no real reason to help humans. However, Gregory is certain of one thing: Urusha is not yet using his true power. He explains that calamity dragons grow stronger by consuming power, and tells Irusia that the best thing he can do right now is to eat him. Tries to explain that Gregory is wrong, arguing that calamity dragons don't gain strength that way, but rather through evolving into more powerful forms. However, after reflecting on Gregory's words, Irusha realizes he might be right. He remembers that the calamity dragon option isn't currently in his evolution tree, because one of the requirements is to kill a human. Gregory looks at Irusia and calmly tells him something important. Even if he kills him, it doesn't mean he will become a monster. He tells him to look at everything he has already done, helping people and protecting the village. Gregory reminds him that he now has the chance to save the entire village, and he doesn't want to be the one standing in the way of that opportunity. Finally, Gregory gently places Irusia's claw against his own neck. Our protagonist hesitates, feeling deeply opposed to doing it. However, he also understands the reality of the situation. If he refuses, the rock dragon will destroy the village and everyone in it. Realizing there is no other choice, Irusia uses his claw to decapitate Gregory. Immediately after, the voice of God speaks again, announcing that he has leveled up and that the plague dragon evolution is now available. Irusia does not hesitate for a second and chooses to evolve. His body begins to mutate, becoming larger, broader, and far more muscular. As he lands firmly on the ground, he makes a promise to himself. He will protect this village no matter what. Using the power granted by Gregory's sacrifice, he quickly resumes the fight against the rock dragon. At first, the two dragons clash with all their might, but Irusia soon realizes the rock dragon is much heavier than expected. He quickly changes his plan. Instead of a direct confrontation, he takes to the sky and begins to circle his opponent, convinced this strategy will help him defeat the beast once and for all. Meanwhile, Miriam and Marielle return to the village and search for the battle. They are met by a villager named Oris, whose face shows deep trauma from what he has witnessed. Without saying much, he leads them to Gregory's body. Oris tells them that Irusia was the one who killed Gregory. Miriam is devastated and shocked, unable to believe that the Irusia she knows could be a violent creature. Oris explains that after killing Gregory, Irusia suddenly grew much larger and moved the battle toward the eastern side of the village. Marielle points out that they cannot focus on that now. Their priority must be helping the many wounded people. Meanwhile, Irusia continues his brutal battle. He tries a new skill called Whirlwind Cut, but is surprised to see it barely dents the rock dragon's health. Realizing brute force alone won't work, he searches for a weak point. He lunges forward and precisely strikes the dragon's head, destroying its last remaining eye. However, this backfires as the rock dragon enters a primal rage and charges toward the village. Irusia immediately throws himself in its path to block the attack. Marielle, busy organizing the treatment for the wounded, notices Miriam is missing and worries she went to help Irusia. At the same time, Irusia struggles to hold the rock dragon at bay. As he is being slowly overpowered, he remembers his dragon scale powder skill, which releases a poisonous dust. To his surprise, the poison actually affects the rock dragon. He then notices the dragon's neck is much thinner than the rest of its body. He shifts his strategy, launching a barrage of rapid strikes at the neck. He then activates a special skill called Neckbreaker, which highlights the exact weak point. Gathering all his strength, Irusia delivers a powerful final blow. The rock dragon finally collapses, defeated. Exhausted Irusia also falls to the ground. The voice of God announces he has gained 384 experience points. Jumping from level 1 to level 19, sometime later, Irusia wakes up to see Miriam standing beside him. She asks if it is really him, as he looks so different. Before he can answer, a bright sphere of light hits an attack from Marielle. She screams at Miriam to get away from the monster. Miriam tries to defend him, but Marielle reminds her that he is the creature that killed Gregory. Miriam still refuses to believe he would do such a thing without a reason. Suddenly, Irushia's dragon scale powder begins to leak from his body again. Seeing the poisonous dust drifting toward Miriam, he accepts a painful truth. He has become a monster whose power is too dangerous for her to be near. Without a word, he gently pushes Miriam away. Mariel, misinterpreting this as an attack, fires another light sphere. Irushia spreads his wings and flies into the distance, silently saying goodbye. Later, far from the village, Irushia sees his reflection in a pond. Though impressed by his new, powerful form, he is filled with frustration. He remembers Miriam giving him the name Irusha because she believed he was brave and heroic. Having killed a human, he no longer feels he deserves that name, but the voice of God explains it cannot be changed. Overwhelmed by these thoughts, he collapses, wondering why he was brought to this world and what his purpose is. He hears a strange sound from the nearby bushes, but doesn't even bother to check. At that moment, he feels as though nothing matters anymore.